Hey guys, welcome to we're muted.
Yeah, that's what Facebook's saying.
Oh, we should be back now. Let's
Yeah,
see.
thanks guys on Facebook.
Okay. So, we should be able to hopefully get to the bottom of how to do professional broadcasting from the field with high quality. And Greg, hopefully you have an answer for that.
I do. I do. As you can see, they're displayed right on my tabletop right here. I've got a few LiveU encoders. So we'll talk about how we can feed those into various software encoders that you might use out there, Wirecast, OBS, vMix, you name it. I mean, there's a way for you to feed, you know, a wireless camera into any of those encoders easily, and I can kind of walk through it today on the program here.
Awesome. Because I know for a fact that a lot of times people struggle with this going in, especially trade shows. If you're going out to um, horse races, I mean, we get customers and we see people's workflows from all over baseball games, football games, and I think you specialize a little bit in the sports area for LiveU, correct?
I do, yeah. So I'm a solutions engineer here at LiveU, and specifically in the sports market here on the West Coast. So I work with professional, amateur, and college sports teams. So yeah, you're exactly right. In a lot of those scenarios, they are working from, say, a baseball field or football field, where internet is a little difficult to come by. So what our products provide is a way to bond multiple sources of internet together for a lot of bandwidth, enough that you would be able to push out high quality, high definition video. Kind of what you're looking at here on my table are this is the LiveU Solo. So it's kind of our entry level product. It's got a you can bond together Wi-Fi, Ethernet, and then two cellular modems. I've only got one on here, but you can actually connect two into there. And then in the back here is the LU300, which you can get up to 6 different sources of internet into on that. 2 internal modems, 2 external modems, then Wi-Fi and Ethernet. And then here, the big kahuna, that is our LU600. And you can bond up to 10 sources of internet in that. It's got multiple cellular modems in there, plus you can bond the Ethernet and Wi-Fi. And then, I can kind of go through the transmission path on that. I've got a few slides that we can tee up in a little bit here too. Um, but if you want to kind of give people an idea on how cellular bonding works, we've got a video on that too. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we can play that. So for those that are wondering, if you go out, I know I go out to trade shows. I do use LiveU. One of the things that I like to do is I like to hook up a camera to it and walk around and interview like running gun style. There's ways to do that. He mentioned the LiveU Solo. That's in fact the one that I have here that I use. Before we get to that video, guys, Marty, what's your take coming from your ESPN background? How has technology changed when it comes to that? I mean, you're used to going out. If you wanted to go live remote, you had to drive this big old truck out, right?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, certainly at the network level, you would have to do that. You'd have a production truck, and usually you'd have an uplink truck, and you do satellite, and it's or fiber, depending on where you are. If you're in a big city, and that's pretty involved stuff, and that's certainly out of reach of a smaller producer. Only the top level networks can afford that. But with LiveU products and bonded cellular and these bonded connections, I can tell you, as a small producer myself, when I go on the road, the first thing, if I'm going to do a live stream on location, the first concern, and usually it's a big worry, is what's my internet look like? And I'm always worried about that, and I want to test it, and trying to get the client to understand how important that is. And even if you have, oh yeah, we got Wi-Fi, and that's the code word. It's like, I'm not too sure about that, and they don't really understand that, there's so many fail points that can go wrong. Even if you have a wired connection, you don't know what kind of uplink you have. Testing's very important, or just that single connection. If you're relying on just single connection, even if it's wired, something goes wrong, you're dead, and you have nothing, especially if it's a paid job and they have to get the signal out. So that's where, and I know we're going to get into what's bonded cellular, bonded connections, but that's so important. And this technology is such a godsend to producers, because now you can go out and Greg, what you're mentioning, especially at the top level, you can bond even up to 10 sources at one time, including multiple Wi-Fi and Ethernet and different cellular sources. So, I mean, you can really keep a nice stable signal, because so much can happen. I even do it even from home if I'm doing a remote production and I'm relying on my single wired internet connection. That's pretty good. I have a pretty good bandwidth there. Any little thing that happens, you could be really up the creek, and it's doubly a problem on the road, especially if you're unfamiliar with the setup they have and the competition for the signal. Stephen, all this stuff, what this is like. I mean, it's just there's so many things go wrong. So if you can take that out of the equation and bring something that like a LiveU unit out there, it just takes all that out, and it gives you, again, reduces those multiple points of failure. Instead of multiple points of failure, you have multiple points of success, because you have multiple redundant paths to get your broadcasts out, and that's everything right there. So
and Jeff, you're doing more broadcasts right now with the fire company. I mean, how is it like when you try to go out in remote places and try to do broadcasts? I mean, how you've obviously facing struggles with that too, right?
Oh, there's no doubt. I find it really amazing how so many people in our world today, everybody who's a content creator, rightly so, says, "Well, I can broadcast to the world and I've got my phone," but they don't know the struggles. I mean, I think we could all across this panel do the back in my day right now. Not only was satellite problematic, but it was extremely expensive, somewhere in the neighborhood sometimes of $5,000 an hour. And if you booked a 15-minute window and you're running a couple minutes late and your show is kind of winding down, you see color bars, they cut you off. And this technology is absolutely incredible. It is not only wonderful from a tech perspective, but it is bringing the stories all across the world now in places where we've never been able to do it live. And it's one thing to have your iPhone to do a show or to shoot something like news, but we all know what the moon looks like in it. You can't get very close. There's a reason why we still have the big broadcast cameras with all the knobs and the lenses and things. So the technology in combination with a LiveU pack like this gives you the ability to literally capture the world in real time. And I think this is where we've seen this ushering in of new citizen journalism, new broadcast operations coming online that are not the big three, the big four, that kind of thing. It's absolutely incredible. There's no doubt about it.
Now, Greg, you did say that we're going to play this video, and that basically it's going to show everybody kind of what bonded cellular technology is about, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Exactly.
So let's take you guys to that. We'll be right back.
The internet can be a scary place for your live video, but you can remove the fear of unstable bandwidth or a poor connection ruining your transmission. How? With LiveU Reliable Transport, the secret behind all LiveU cellular bonding technology. LiveU units bond multiple connections together, and LRT ensures that your content is transported with the highest quality wherever you are, even over the most unreliable networks. LiveU ensures network stability by bonding together multiple networks of varying bandwidths to create one single, reliable connection to transmit your live video content. This way, even if one connection becomes unstable, the bonded connection remains robust automatically. Here you see how it all works over time during a live video stream. The bandwidth will fluctuate depending upon where you are located, if you're moving, or just general cellular congestion. But LRT ensures that your video continues to stream by automatically adapting the video bitrate to accommodate these network fluctuations. This way, your video continues to transmit at the highest possible quality at any given time. If the bandwidth lowers, LRT will lower the video bitrate to ensure the transmission is never dropped. When the bandwidth stabilizes, the bitrate will increase to the best possible quality without any action from you. Whether you're streaming to Facebook Live or covering a large-scale broadcast, LiveU removes the need for expensive satellite connectivity, frees you from being hardwired to an internet connection, and allows you to go anywhere to share great quality live video with confidence.
All right, guys. So that pretty much explains the whole bonded technology. And I do want to state, there's a lot of companies out there that do bonded technology, but over the years, I've tried different ones personally, and I've seen many, many problems with it, guys. And I know we were kind of talking during the video that LiveU has gotten it right, and that's kind of why we wanted to showcase that here on the show, because we know how time critical it is when you're out in the field, you're trying to do professional video, and you can't afford to have your production fail. You can't. And so that's why, like I said, myself personally, I have put my trust in LiveU, and I've used it, for every trade show that I've gone out to, whether it be in the tech and broadcast industry to the hunting industry. So I think, Jeff, you were even saying, I mean, it's mission critical.
Oh, it absolutely is. The station I spent 5 years at producing a TV show out of DC, it was CBS station. They lived off of the LiveU, and it's because there's a number of different products out there that can do a good job, but the LiveU, in my opinion, has been a premium product because of the technology and the engineering behind it, the redundancies built in, and I think it's just been a lot of smart and savvy thinking about it. But there's no doubt there's many ways to do something, but I can tell you, just in my experience, this is definitely something to keep an eye on if you're very serious and you really can't lose that signal, because that's what will happen if you start looking at the Amazon list and you say, oh, this looks like it'll do it for $69. Alexa's not going to help you there. So,
so Greg, I know you showed a plethora of products that are back here, but why don't you kind of walk through real quick? I know you've got some diagrams and we can get into that, but let's look at some use cases for the different products. Somebody might be sitting there saying, well, I don't need that huge backpack for, I'm going out and I'm doing a kid's baseball game or something.
Yeah.
Why don't you kind of go into a little bit about that? If people are looking for a solution, what would you recommend? So let's say we're going out, we're going to do a high school softball, since you're more in the sports realm, and we may have some folks that are doing sports. What would you recommend as to be on the safe side, because you don't want to be underpowered, but you also don't want to be overkill when it comes to bandwidth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we'll start, kind of at our basic product, the LiveU Solo here. So, ideally in that softball scenario, you'd be able to get onto some kind of a Wi-Fi network or Ethernet as kind of your base, right? So you've got that at least to work with, but you might not have that available. So you're going to have to go out and get some cellular modems. So LiveU will work with USB modems from any cellular provider out there. They just plug in easily right into here. We've got a USB connection that goes into there, and then you can plug your. So there's a couple ways to do it, right? And that's kind of what I've got to show in the diagrams. So you can either use this on a camera to set that up as a wireless camera and then feed that back to your switcher. Or you can actually take your switcher output and run it through here. So this is going to serve as your encoder for your program out feed.
Which diagram would you like me to bring up? The one with the wireless cameras, or do you want me to do the bonded cellular?
Let's go from the cameras first.
I can bring that up for you and let you talk about that a little bit here.
Cool. Okay, so in this scenario, you can see we've got 3 cameras set up, and they've all got the LiveU Solos that are all feeding into a computer. Now, you could be running Wirecast, OBS, any production truck, any variety of different softwares on that, but you do need something to catch those feeds. So you can see on there that I've mentioned RTMP mini server as a one of the newer options that's out there. That's pretty cool because that'll give you an RTMP push address that you can set up your LiveU Solo to send into them. And then what that software does is it turns the source into NDI, so it can easily be picked up by one of those switcher softwares. And I can actually demo that here with my little GoPro that I've got set up. If we can switch over to... let me get this turned on, and then I can share my screen and kind of show you how that would work in practice. Give you a little bit of a demo there.
So what we'll do in the meantime is we'll let people know, hey, guys that are watching this right now, if normally during this show, while Greg's getting that set up, we normally showcase you, the audience, one of your videos in the show. We're not going to do that today. We're going to focus on the LiveU here, but we encourage you guys to get those sent in. And if you want to be a guest on the show to talk about those workflows, please. But by all means, you don't have to if you're kind of camera shy and you just want to be behind the camera and shoot it, but get them sent in. So I think Greg is just about ready, right?
Hang on. Let me just get my screen share going.
Okay. And
okay,
we're going to take you back.
It should be good. I can't see you guys anymore, so you'll have to let me know.
You're up and ready and rolling.
You can see it. Okay,
yes,
cool.
Sir.
So this is our LiveU Solo login screen here. So I'm already, actually, let's see. Let me get in here.
Everybody write down his password. I'm just kidding.
Hopefully that
I'm
was
just
blocked
kidding.
out. So here's kind of our console that you'll see when you get in here. I had already set up a destination, but I'll start from scratch here. So we'll take this out. So this is that RTMP mini server software that I was mentioning. Over to the right, this is available for either PC or for Mac. I just happen to be running on a PC today.
So we can access that from a smart device too, right, Greg?
RTMP mini server?
Oh, I mean the web interface that you're going into, that you're logging into.
The web console, yes. We do have we've got an app as well.
Cool, cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. So as far as RTMP mini server, the things to know about this is that you will have to set a listen port, and you may have to do some port forwarding on your router in order to get that working correctly. So I've set 1936 here as my listen port for this, and then you're just looking at an RTMP push address right here. So I would copy this from here. And why is it barking at me? Let's see. I'll create a new destination. And in here in the Solo console, we'll come to create a generic RTMP destination. And let's see. I see what's going on here. I've got a test generator for NDI working. So I'll just give this a name. I'll call it my mini server. And as far as a profile, we'll do 720 or 1280 by 720. This primary URL it's looking for will be this to connect from internet. So I'll just copy paste that in there. And then you can create any stream key that you want here on line 1. So I've just called it solo. I'll copy that, paste that down here. I guess everybody knows where to email me now. I get spam like heck on that anyway, so don't worry about it. We're not reaching inbox zero anytime soon on that.
So what he's saying is all hate mail for the show today goes to that address. No, I'm just kidding.
Send it right there. I'm glad to respond to it, Stephen.
Yeah, no, it's good. Gotta have fun on the show, you know. You just gotta have some fun.
Absolutely. So now that we've set up our destination in here, it's just a matter of starting up the stream. So we can do that either there's a button on the Solo itself, or we've got a go live button right here. You also notice there's a low delay mode on here, which is really nice because you can get your latency down to about a second, which is convenient for cutting cameras. And making sure that you don't miss anything. This is all using the same technology that our higher end products use. So your cameras should be pretty in sync. We do have a precision timing feature in there that keeps everything synced up as long as you've got the same latency set for all of it. And then you can see the LRT is on here. That's kind of the secret sauce that handles all the bonding that you saw in that video previously. So definitely want to make sure that's on. You can pick so all of this has to go through a gateway server. So I'm closest to San Jose here. I'm in Portland, Oregon right now. So that's why I'm going to push to there. But we'll hit go live here. It'll start streaming. And then over here on RTMP mini server, I should start to receive the feed momentarily here. There we go. There's my LiveU backpack. So then if you're working with a software switcher, let me just take that down there. And so we'll pull up Wirecast. I've already got this kind of set up, but let me start from ground zero here. This is Wirecast, the 13 beta, by the way, that I'm working in. So it just comes in as a NDI source in here. So here's my computer. Mini server A, line 1 is where we're pushing to. So you can see the preview image right there. And I can move this camera around. And you'll see kind of what the latency would look like. It's very low.
That's really good.
Yeah. So I'll just add that. And there you can see I've got my shot. It does have some of the GoPro stuff on top there. So I'll just stretch that out, get rid of that. And there, we've got a nice shot.
Awesome. So people could essentially use this. They could use this to basically, if they're in like down at a racetrack or something, or they're doing interviews from the side of the track where there's no fixated cameras, they could essentially set this up and bring that in with low latency via NDI.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of our higher end products, like the big backpack, the LU600 and the 300 back there, they actually would feed into a physical server. I've got that kind of over to the side here. I can show you real quick. It's right down there. Whoop. So there's a couple LiveU servers down there. Sorry, I hope that doesn't mess up your.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Your setup, but yeah, our servers can actually push out NDI across the network so that you could pull that into a switcher, or they've got SDI outputs on them as well. So in most cases, you'd just be taking SDIs right into your switcher from multiple LiveUs. You can set up to 8 channels of, so 8 different LiveU encoders feeding into that and 8 SDIs out.
That's something we haven't really touched on a lot here, guys, was the whole NDI, the power of NDI and just seeing that in action here with that. I mean, we use it here in our respective studios, but Greg, I mean, it just made it that much simpler to add it, rather than typing in IP addresses and going through the whole, the whole shebang with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a headache before. I mean, I can't tell you working for Wirecast, how many people would be like, how do I get my feed into here? I can't figure it out, because a common stumbling block, right, is that you think that you enter an RTMP push address and you can push right to Wirecast, but you can't. It's got to hit a server first. So that's kind of the function of that RTMP mini server program. It turns your computer into a server.
So one of the ways, and I don't know, Marty, if you remember this back when I was covering NAB, but years ago, one of the ways that I was doing it, I wrote some Apple script to where I would let reruns run at home on my Wirecast, and I would set Apple script so when I was going to go live with LiveU at the trade show, I would send myself an email to that computer at home, which had Apple script to trigger Wirecast to go from that, as Greg was saying, that RTMP receive from the LiveU, from the server, to grab that, switch it, take my pre-recorded out of live and put my LiveU live so that I could use my home destination, my home internet, to go out to YouTube and all the other destinations, because LiveU was going to the cloud. So I've used a lot of ingenuity with that, and you guys are making it now simpler with a lot of the software that you have now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that RTMP mini server application, I think, just came out within the past year. Just starting to experiment with that. There is a low cost on it, but it's a lot lower than something than like Wowza. I mean, you could use Wowza for the same function. Wowza is going to be a bit more robust. But for just somebody that's doing a high school game, something like that, I think RTMP mini server could work quite well for them.
Now, I know we're going to have to wrap this up shortly, but you had a couple other diagrams that you wanted to show. Are there one particular that you wanted to show that we could pull it up, or?
Yeah, let's go into the program output, because I just want to make sure that people understand kind of how that one would work. So this would be to use a solo to take a feed out from something like Wirecast or vMix or any software switchers. You should see that as it should be one of the LiveU solo.
That was the
diagrams.
one I think that's the one we just looked at, was it not?
That was
this one here.
Yeah, using one of these for a wireless camera source. So in this diagram,
okay,
you might be bringing in your cameras wired, and that's what you're seeing on the left-hand side there, where things are feeding into capture devices. So on this, you'll usually need a output card. So either something that would connect with Thunderbolt or PCI. Blackmagic and AJA make those devices, things like the Blackmagic Ultra Studio Mini Monitor. So that would take program, your mixed program feed into the LiveU solo, and then you could push out to one or multiple destinations from there. And that's kind of what you're seeing with the YouTube and Facebook custom RTMP. Push to any RTMP out of that. It'd be a fully bonded way of going. So, you can make sure that your Friday night football game doesn't, you don't have people in the comments telling you that it doesn't look good, or it's stuttering, it's falling off, it's not working. Yeah.
Well,
let me say something here real quick about that. I think is really powerful if you're using products like vMix or Wirecast that do the encoding for you. Having a LiveU, even if you're not out in the field, as he just illustrated, that can take that weight of making that signal ready for the internet, live stream it, and that takes all the heat and the processing power out of your computer, where you're not doing that within the software, which means if you're having any kind of bumps and things like that, stutters, that alone could easily make things a little bit nicer for you if you've got a LiveU sitting there.
It's a great point, Jeff.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's something you could do if you're thinking about it. If you guys are going to a trade show, let's say you're a business and this space, we all know, Marty, you're in the marketing business now, you
Mhm.
all know everybody's going live. And so one of the things is whether you're using whatever software switcher that's available, hardware switcher, you're in a booth, you want to go out with professional cameras inside your booth at a trade show or at an event, you can hook it up. You can hook that up to a LiveU, get reliable bandwidth that's bonded through their special sauce, as Greg put it, going out to the web. It's definitely something to check out. So
See,
as a
I just
solution.
love the I just love the flexibility of the whole thing, right? So it's so many different options you have. You can go from just having a single camera and the live view solo, put it on top and go directly out from that camera and broadcast it out live wherever you're at, all the way to using it as a method to get like a roving reporter, like you mentioned, Stephen, roving reporter on a show floor
Mhm.
or at a sporting event where you can't string cable or you can't distribute the camera and get it back to your main switcher. I mean, it's such a godsend as far as giving you the options to be able to get those signals back relatively efficiently and be able to bring those, and make it part of a larger show. So if you add one of these units, you can so many different ways you can use it, and just the whole breaking news scenario and use case where you're able to, especially small operators, are able to now be like the big boys, where they can go out and they can get the signals in live and make it part of a large that kind of what I saw in it. That's kind of the use case I would bring to it, is making it part of a larger show and being able to bring those signals in where you wouldn't be able to bring a satellite truck, or would be way too expensive, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, in the sports world, we see a lot of at-home production going on these days, where there'll be a live view server that is back in the control room, in X city, and they'll just send their production teams out to the event with multiple live view encoders, which will feed back to their servers, which could be anywhere in the world, and switch them. So that saves a lot of money. They did that during the World Cup last year. Um, just sent out the encoders and fed everything back to Los Angeles, to do the switching.
It's funny, when I was with still with ESPN, they were just starting to do that. They call it thin productions, where they were experimenting, just sending the cameras and the crews. They don't have to send the whole mobile truck, and they would just send. And now in that case, they were using fiber and all that stuff, and sending the signals back, and then using the control rooms in Bristol and switching shows and having the announcers in Bristol, and just bringing the signals back. And this kind of opens it up to everybody, where you can kind of do the same thing, where you're at a remote location. Say you can't bring a whole crew, and you just bring a camera guy with a live view unit, and you bring the video and audio back, and then you have your main studio and control room, and you can switch a show. You can even have your announcers in the booth, in your home studio, and do it like you're on remote, but nobody will know. You just bring the signals back, but it just opens up so many options for productions. It's fantastic.
Well, before we say goodbye to our guest here and farewell to you guys for this week, I want to say I can give you a use case where I know for a fact we like to bring products and companies on the show that we believe in, that we've used. It's not just something, I mean, we always leave the door open for others, but it's something that we can say that we've used and we tried. And I remember 4 years ago when I was at NAB, and LiveU was kind enough to let me try one of their beta products, and I was out there and I had like this massive latency on it. I remember those guys, the support that they gave me there, man. They rebuilt the server. Greg, you talked about a server. We're using beta, and that's part of what I'm doing. Outside of this, I was using beta software, and those guys there, man, they jumped right on it. They they rebuilt the server, got everything working. So that's a testament too to the what you guys do behind the scenes as far as support and backing up the people that are using the product. It's we do that too with Telestream. We try to back up the product. So it's always great to see that when you're getting behind the users that are out there, especially in a critical fashion where you're at a trade show and they're in the back room. The geeks are going wild. They're getting things and changing it and rebuilding things. So
Oh yeah, we send people out. Our support staff's available on call 24/7, 365 days a year. So, yeah, support is very important to our company. It's one of the key differentiators for us versus others.
Well, Greg, thank you so much for joining us. You guys can check it out, liveu.tv. Go check him out. Go pester him. He gave his email. He said, go ahead, go pester him. No. They're great folks over there at LiveU. So thank you, Greg, so much for coming on and joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot, Stephen. Anytime.
Awesome. Also want to thank Mr. Jeffrey Fitzgerald as well. Thank you, sir. Always.
Hey, it's always good to be here.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Marty McPadden.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
So the boys will all be back next week. We'll have some more content. So you want to stay tuned. Like I said, we've got some really cool shows coming up here in the next couple weeks. So make sure you send in those videos. I can't say that enough. We love getting those videos. We love seeing the workflows that you guys are doing and ways that we can help and assist you in your video productions. That was one of the reasons we talked with Greg. You know, a lot of you guys wanted to know how to get professional video when you're out in the field. Well, we gave you a solution. So keep those comments coming, the feedback coming. And again, if we didn't get to your comment in the chat room, we're going to go back to it later on, and we'll get those answered. Somebody will answer them. And guys, we will see you next week here for another edition of On Social. See ya.